What up, friends? Welcome to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine. Before we get into this conversation about high protein, low carb bread, say what? I want to tell you about some other people that can help you with nutrition in your life, because nutrition is freaking hard. One, because we're all very busy and it's hard to make healthy choices because everything that's convenient seems to be pretty unhealthy. And also it's very confusing when you have so many different people telling you what to do intermittent fasting, do keto, do caveman. There's a million different things that you can do. So if you kind of want to just figure out what you should do for you and is best for you, highly recommend checking out Sarah and Team Fit With Me, because they will look at you as a whole person and give you just amazing health coaching, no matter what your goals are. If it's fat loss, if it's just to get more fit, if it's just to have more accountability and have a better understanding about how your body interacts with food and exercise, then Sarah and her whole team can help you out. So she'll look at everything from your sleep to your stress to your poop and see like how you're eating and seeing how you're moving your body and formulate a plan that is best for you, that is going to reach your goals. And I'll tell you what, if you follow what Sarah asks you to follow, you are going to see results. And not only is she going to just look at you as a whole person from a health perspective, she's going to look at that from a financial perspective too. So it's going to be like, what works for you? What can you afford? What is the best plan for you? So go to teamfitwithme.com, check out Sarah. And if you're in Cincinnati and you're looking for convenient, healthy food choices, check out Clean Eats in Newport. They have the cafe. You can go in, just eat lunch if you need to do a lunch meeting there. Grab and go all the frozen meals, or you can do the fresh meals. You order those online. Usually the menu goes live, I'm going to be wrong about this, Wednesday or Thursday, and then you go pick up your food either Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I always pick them on Sunday, meal prep Sunday. But if you order low carb meals, then you pick those up on Tuesdays, and same thing with the higher protein. So if you need higher protein, you need lower carb, they have vegetarian options. There's all sorts of options for no matter what your health journey is. And it's all cooked and made for you. Lots of variety. It changes every single week. So if you've not checked out Clean Eats in Newport, highly recommend you go check them out.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I am Amanda Valentine. I am very excited to talk all about bread and carbs and entrepreneurship with Julie Lincoln from Doughjoy Bread. How are you?
I'm great. Hi. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to talk about all of the things that I'm most passionate about. Thank you.
Yeah. So we met at a health fair. Well, I had followed you on Instagram. So I had already seen your bread. I'm like, ooh, what's this bread? I do love bread. And then I met you at a health fair and we got chatting and I'm like, oh man, I got to have you on the podcast and hear all about your backstory. Cause I mean, as a very minor entrepreneur myself, I am an entrepreneur in my own ways. I just have so much respect for people that have a vision, have a passion, and go after it. And especially people in the health and wellness field where, you're creating a bread for people that want to enjoy bread, but maybe their diet restricts them from that. And carbs bring joy. Let's not lie. So I think that's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So tell me about you before we get into the bread and everything else. Give me your life story. What was your childhood like?
Oh my gosh, what was my childhood like? Well, I'll tell you what, I ate a lot of bread, that's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
I grew up here in Cincinnati. I will say, though, I always feel like I have to caveat that by saying I did live outside of Cincinnati for about 6 years. So while I was born and raised here, I have experienced life outside of Cincinnati. But as a child, I grew up in the Blue Ash area and, I had a pretty basic diet, but I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and my grandmother was that just sort of kind of classic. She was from Kentucky. She lived in Cincinnati, but she grew up in Kentucky. So she had this sweet little country kitchen, and she was always baking delicious bread and muffins and biscuits and all the good stuff. And so as I grew older, obviously that was an important part of my diet, but I always have associated baked goods and especially breads and biscuits and muffins with love, because that's what I grew up with in that house. And so, dough is really my love language. There was no way I could ever imagine giving up bread for a diet. But, as I have gotten older, I have needed to make some changes to the way I eat, because obviously the weight doesn't just stay off without you modifying how you eat. And I've had pretty much the same basic fitness lifestyle since the beginning. I've never been a super hard workout person, but I'm active. I walk a lot, and I do yoga occasionally, and I love to bicycle, but that's not enough to keep off the weight. So I have yo-yoed on diets a bit throughout my life. So let's see. So we're kind of fast forwarding here. I should just touch on the highlights of my career. I'm 40. I can't believe it. 48. And over the course of my life, I've had varying careers in journalism, communications, marketing. And while I did live outside of Cincinnati, I was living in Baltimore, and I was working for Johns Hopkins Medicine. They have an institute there called the Kennedy Krieger Institute. And so that's really where I started getting a footing in healthcare and healthcare marketing and helping people. And I've always been, ever since, incredibly passionate about helping people understand the good of, good food, healthy lifestyles, and of course, whatever, nonprofits and conditions and health related topics are out there. I love getting into that and helping to raise awareness about important health related issues. So I moved back to Cincinnati after the birth of my child, and my family, we lived in Milford for quite a while, and I was working at various agencies in Cincinnati, and sort of made a niche in, again, sort of a healthcare related space, but within the CPG, consumer packaged goods world. I was doing a bunch of branding work for Procter & Gamble brands primarily. So health related brands, like I did some work on Metamucil, and I did some work with some feminine care brands and some other things. And that's where I got the experience in innovation. So product innovation became something that was very interesting to me, and really learned what it takes to take a concept for a product and really turn it into something that you eventually see on the shelf. And that process in a big consumer packaged goods world can take years. And my role in that was pretty narrow. I was basically working with people to understand what mattered about whatever product, P&G was working on at the time, and then working with the R&D teams to figure out how to modify the product or the communication to get it into the market and make it a success. So that's long, kind of boring. The point of me telling you this is that's how I got into doing what I'm doing now. So I left that work to start my own consultancy. I was very interested in what was happening in the startup scene in Cincinnati at that time. And this is like 10 years ago. And intended to do more of what I had been doing on an entrepreneur level, like helping people with startups put the right practices in place to get concepts into the market so that they could start testing and learning and growing. And being able to do that work from start to finish was really very appealing to me. So I started my first company, and very quickly picked up my first client, And this client was in the food business, and I had never done anything in food. And I was absolutely in love with it from the moment I started doing it because it was very fast paced. I realized you can formulate something, get it into packaging, get it into market, and start selling and learning on it like within a year sometimes. And, and I'm comparing that to products that I had worked on where, literally 20 years later, they're still trying to figure out how to commercialize it. So it was very, very exciting for me to see my, client's product that I had been working on for so long, or in that time, actually on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And so I actually went into business along with this particular client, and we had this product, and it was a healthy, like vegetable-based snack product. And I then started learning all about what it takes to become an entrepreneur, a product entrepreneur. And we pushed this particular product in the market for a couple of years. We were very successful in getting it sold into national retailers. At one point, we were in 1,400 Walmart stores.
Whoa.
Over the course of a year and a half. Like, it happened so quickly. It was at a time when the food startup scene was really, really hot, and you had a lot of big food companies that were really kind of using and watching the startup world to see what looked really innovative, really promising, and like something that they could potentially purchase and buy and bring into the fold. And so that kind of was the entrepreneur's dream, right? Like, you create this product, you sell it to a big company, you make billions of dollars, and you go live on an island somewhere, right? So that was kind of the model that, again, my business partner at the time, his concept for this has sort of followed that. And so I was along for the ride, and oh my God, what a ride it was. And we had capital, we had investors, we had all of it. And as I said, at the peak, we had 1,400 stores, but we didn't have the supply chain. We didn't have the logistics figured out. And pretty quickly, the cracks in the foundation sort of gave way, and this thing collapsed, and we had to let go of a lot of people. We had to pull the product off the shelf, and basically, long story short, the business kind of went in a totally different direction without me, and it's now in some other place and time that I'm not involved in anymore, and that's fine. But it gave me that like spark of excitement and energy and inspiration to say, I've got to do this some more. So I went back to my consulting practice and focused my consultancy on food, and had fairly quickly picked up another 8-9 clients. And I was doing everything from helping them create products ranging from beverages to baked goods to ice cream to hot sauce, all sorts of things. But the things that I have continued to be most passionate about related to health and wellness and better for you options than what you could buy in your grocery store. So 2020 comes along, COVID, and like everybody, I'm at home, I'm isolated, I'm still running my business, and we're really busy, but, I'm locked into a certain number types of foods that I'm eating that I can access that I, suddenly hadn't been eating this type of food before. And they included, pretty unhealthy breads and lots of carbs. And lo and behold, I'm gaining weight. And because it's so difficult for me to give up bread, I was working with a colleague who developed a very specialized niche in sugar-free applications, food applications, and it basically, said to her, "We got to create something here to help people enjoy the foods that they love without gaining all this weight." And so she created this bread, and it is the first iteration of it was a very high protein, fiber rich bread, It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. And we started, developing that. And, it's sort of like we sort of shelved it because we had a lot of other products that we were working on for other clients. But this thing was always there. And I kept finding myself wanting to get back to it. And so after a couple of years with the consultancy, I basically finally went to my two business partners at the time, one of whom was the food scientist, another one was a graphic designer. And I basically said, look, guys, I don't know about you, but I'd really like to make another go at, a food startup, but I don't want to do it by myself. I've never really wanted to do it by myself. Would you be interested in doing this too? And they both were up for it. And this is where I've learned that, like starting a food business is not for the faint of heart. It's hard, and it's a roller coaster, and you experience highs and lows, sometimes in the same day, sometimes twice in the same day. Everything from, the challenges are great. Everything from, my product suddenly, for whatever reason, has started to mold on the shelf before it was supposed to. What the heck? I got to race now over to Jungle Jim's Fairfield and pull my bread off of the shelf because I can't have people seeing all this mold on it. And I've got to find a way to, replace what's there with what's on the shelf with new. And it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but when you're only 1, 2, 3 people, like it becomes hard to drop everything to go do that. But you do that, and you do that multiple times a week. It's always something. So, and then, you have challenges with your bakery, perhaps not producing your formula exactly the way it should have been. And you have a batch of bread that came out like a brick, but it's all you have, So what do? How do you manage your retailers? How do you get the product, remade and at expense, to ensure that you constantly have product in stock with your retailers so your customers don't notice any interruption. Packaging comes in and for whatever reason, the color's off, or the barcode doesn't scan, or your invoices are off. Like, it's always something. And for a lot of people, if you're not able to manage a lot of different hats, like it's a deal breaker. And so I've learned that you're either wired to be okay with that and to be able to go in a lot of directions at once, or you're not. You're either really motivated to do this every day and you're kind of jazzed by the obstacles and figuring out how to overcome them, or you're not, and you're able to accept the risk, or you're not. And it's okay either way, but you don't really know that until you try it. So the three of us agreed to do this. And, after a year, they both decided that they weren't really excited to do it for their own reasons. And that's okay. So I'm now the lone partner, or the founder of the company, and the only owner at this point. And I'm doing it on my own. And I've actually found that I really like it. I like, kind of controlling my own destiny, making the decisions that I need to make, and continue to push this thing until it reaches the logical next step. And my goal is to get it into lots of stores nationally. I have a plan for doing that, but there's always a bump in the road somewhere along the way. So I've learned over the last few years, you can't control everything. You just have to go along the ride, and that's what I'm doing. And my gosh, I've been talking a long time.
That's all right.
Sorry.
It's a podcasts are for.
Yeah. So most of the time I feel like I'm I'm just running in a lot of directions and in the weeds a lot, and have to force myself to see the forest through the trees every once in a while. So that's basically what the journey looks like for me over the last many years.
Well, I'm so glad that you bring that up, because I feel like in the struggles of it, because I think that people, especially like I know that you have your product at Jungle Gyms, like here in Cincinnati, to bring up like a local retailer. So if somebody's not even looking at your website, they see it in the store. And I think this is true of most local small businesses. They see a price tag on something and they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to pay for that. And like, well, this is what's going in the background. You have one person running this entire business and just talking about, like, the colors are off, the barcodes don't work, the bread is mold. I'm running around, like, how much cost and labor and everything, and what a labor of love it is. That's why that cost is higher than this mass-produced, generic, like huge brand of something that is not curated for a specific need and everything else. So I feel like that needs to give people more of an understanding that when you are supporting a product like that, you're supporting a person that you could have a sit down face to face with and discuss this thing with, and all of the things that go behind it. Because I have a friend who also has a low carb pasta business, and it's the same sort of thing of like, yeah, you could go get Bonza at the store, which is even more expensive than your white flour pasta. But then when you go into, like, this is just a one person show and they're running a pasta company, like, the price has to be higher. It's not it's not P&G. So, or, or Kellogg or anything like that. So, I feel like people kind of lose sight of that if they don't have any entrepreneurs in their life and they don't understand what that is. Or, I'm sure I know people that like own brick and mortar, like bakeries and coffee shops. People are like, oh, give me the friend discount. It's like, no, I still got to pay for that. You want a muffin for free, but that's still like, no, you're taking away from my business. I'm not being a butthole. I just think people just don't realize all that goes into it.
They don't. And I get it. You're conditioned when you go into a grocery store to look at the price and to compare it against the other options that are on the shelf. And you don't really think about the advantages that those other companies have compared to the small startup that's trying to get your attention and offer you usually something much better right next to it. And particularly in the case of bread, this is a category of food that is just dominated by major, huge companies. You don't have many small ones that are in, if you think about that main aisle in the grocery store, they're all huge companies. The companies actually own the shelves, and so they're bringing the bread in and they're stocking the shelf. And even if you have a retailer like a small independent grocery store that wants you to put your bread there, and then carves a space for you, those other the distributors of those other big brands will come in and move you off the shelf and push your bread aside. And it's really cutthroat in that in the grocery store. It just is. But you also have to be able to find a way to succeed there, because, especially again in a world that I'm living in, which is bread, most people buy their bread in grocery stores or in bakeries, but most people buy their bread in grocery stores. And buying bread online is not the norm. I offer my bread online. There's a lot of advantages to buying it online, because it's when you buy it online, obviously it's coming directly from me. It's all, everything that's touching it is it's all mine, and there's no one in between. So it's like this direct connection between you and the customer, and that's really special. But I've known from the beginning that I can't build my company on online sales alone. And a lot of, startups really do. They take advantage of the lower cost of marketing and using influencers and others to build that brand awareness to get those sales online. In my case, because I'm a perishable product, it's just the cost of shipping the bread just becomes really steep, and then you really are buying a very expensive loaf of bread. So to win, I have to find a way to work in markets and physical stores, and so that's been my focus. And so for me, the way that I'm trying to break through is with a very interesting packaging that looks really different from everything else you see in the bread aisle. And frankly, with a product that's just absolutely superior, so that when people learn about it, they want to try it, and then they continue to purchase. And that's really what's happening on a micro scale right now, because like I said, it really is just me and a small team of contract employers or employees who are helping in various capacities. All I have really is my packaging, especially once I move outside of Cincinnati. So it's sometimes it feels really impossible, but it's all worth it when you hear somebody tell you that, oh my gosh, I tried your product and I love it, and I have to keep buying it because it has all these benefits for me, which they're not used to when it comes to a loaf of bread.
Yeah, so tell me all about the bread. Tell me why
Yeah.
Doughjoy is so special.
Yeah, thank you. So I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't a product that really matters. So I guess my experience in healthcare marketing to date has really made me passionate about products that are good for you. So obviously it has to taste great, and it does. Having the history that I have with bread and my grandmother's bread, like I was not going to be satisfied putting anything in the market that didn't absolutely taste delicious. So I have a high bar for the taste of this product and the texture and all those things that you expect from bread. But it was important to me that this bread be really good for you, and not just good for you because it has great ingredients, but good for you because it's not going to contribute to empty calories or empty carbs. So Doughjoy is made with wheat. It's not a gluten-free bread. We get that question all the time. And, for those people who are really trying to cut gluten out of their diets, this really isn't the product for them right now. Like maybe someday I'll have a gluten-free bread, but it was more important for me to create a really great tasting bread. And frankly, you need wheat to create and replicate a bread that tastes like bread. It has to be from wheat, in my opinion. So we use only the part of wheat that contains the protein and the fiber. So we're basically talking about the wheat germ and the wheat bran. The endosperm is what contains the parts of the wheat that convert to carbs in the body. And those are the starchy parts that we don't use in our ingredients. We figured out how to then add to this base, which is not uncommon in other low-carb breads and, sort of diet breads. We added to this other ingredients that are proprietary. We've got a proprietary flour mix that includes the wheat, as I told you, and an enzyme, essentially, that helps to basically soften and add flavor to the bread. It's natural. And then we add some other wonderful ingredients like milled sunflower seeds, apple cider vinegar, and we very intentionally use coconut oil, because coconut oil has been found to not be inflammatory like other cheaper oils, sunflower oil, canola oils. Those types of oils can really cause some problems for folks who are watching, their blood pressure or trying to be good to their hearts. So we use coconut oil, and then basically leavening ingredients to help the bread rise. And that was really the biggest challenge, was when you're using these ingredients, they don't contain a lot of sugar, obviously, and yeast needs sugars to do their magic, which is cause the bread to rise. So in the absence of that, we had to figure out the right combination of ingredients to give them just enough fuel, if you will, to produce the carbon dioxide, which then causes the bread to rise, without adding anything extra to it that then will just be stored in the body and convert to fat and sugar. So that's the technical side of this bread that makes it very special. This is not a bread, and you always hear stories of food startups. They're like, we created this in our kitchen, and I did create this in my kitchen. I have a commercial kitchen in Blue Ash, but it was in collaboration with an incredibly talented food scientist and some incredibly talented bakers, and others who figured out how to make it. And then we found the right bakery partners to do it at scale. So that journey of development has been long and tricky, but we've figured out how to do it, I think, in a way that if you were to compare it to other similar types of breads, you would realize and see very quickly it's quite different, not only from a taste perspective, but also from a nutrition perspective. It has a ton of fiber. It's an excellent source of fiber. It has 6 grams of protein per slice. It has no sugar, only 40 calories. So if you have a sandwich, basically you're getting you're getting almost 20 grams of fiber out of your sandwich, and you're also getting 12 grams of protein. I mean, that's a lot. That means your bread is now contributing to the overall nutrition of whatever you're eating it with, your sandwich. Whereas in almost every other case, the bread is basically contributing to empty carbs and empty calories. It's not doing anything for you other than maybe giving you a little bit of fiber. But even the fiber in most cases is not very high in most breads. So it's a very, very special product, and I am super passionate about it because of the good that I know that it is doing for people. So that's the no-go story.
What's your personal favorite thing, how to eat it? Like, what do you like to
well, 100% grilled cheese.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. If you look at my social media, I'm the one posting on social media, and I'm a sort of obsessed with grilled cheese. And the way this grills is just spectacular. You put some butter on it, use whatever type of, if you're using low fat butter or low, whatever. It's beautiful. It browns perfectly. It's got a nice crispy crunch to it. It is so good. Love it.
I will say that when I bought some from you when we met at the health fair, I made avocado toast with it, which was great. I made a lot of toast. I guess I don't eat a whole lot of sandwiches. So I made avocado toast, and then I also did a toast with cottage cheese and chili crisp and honey. And that was really good.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really good. So I enjoyed, it was a really good vehicle for toast, because that's, I don't know. I mean, I like sandwiches, but like you were saying, I think that I've trained myself so much through my own journey over the past decade to not make a lot of sandwiches because it's a butt ton of carbs. I love bread. So, I mean, but if I have just bread in the house, it's a problem because I will sit there and just eat slices of bread. I will eat it like it's chips. And and eat a whole thing of bread. I'm like, this is not really doing anything for me. So then I just got out of the habit of not having it around. But if I have it, I'll do Ezekiel bread, or I'll do a gluten-free bread, which then it's the really tiniest slices ever. It's this, the gluten-free bread is the smallest bread. And I'll exclusively use those just to make toasts with, and again, to add protein to it, because these breads don't have the added protein. I'll add egg. I'll put a soft boiled egg on top of avocado toast so I can add to it. But having the protein, have it add to that is huge, because I mean that almost just makes a whole perspective shift for me in the ways that I've trained myself out of not having bread to be oh no, what if my bread is actually serving me and it's beneficial instead of problematic.
And that's the thing that I find myself constantly trying to communicate with people, because I always hear people say, well, I don't eat bread anymore. And I'm like, that is sad. It's a sad, sad world if we are cutting bread out of our diets. I mean, if you think about the historical significance of bread over civilizations, I mean, seriously, manna from heaven, like the Egyptians created. They were the first ones to introduce bread. And I mean, it's been used as currency. It was the reason that the French Revolution began because the people on the street wanted their bread. They needed bread, and they rioted. It's an essential food, and to just cut it out of your diet, again, for me, was just a non-starter, because for me, it is literally love. Like, I feel so comforted when I eat and enjoy bread. And frankly, I do snack on Doughjoy. I mean, I like soft bread, so I will take it and I will put a little salt on it. And just eat it as a snack. Sometimes with butter, sometimes not. I'll just eat it as a snack. And because it has a really savory, almost like a soury taste to it. I love it. I'll put, tomatoes, whatever. But that is the education for people, is this bread actually contributes to your nutrition. And I was just having a conversation with a doctor at St. Elizabeth weight loss clinic, who they sell my bread in their clinic.
Oh, nice.
who are working with dietitians to lose weight. And, it's right there in the weight loss clinic. And he was even telling me, he said, any other bread, even the Ezekiel breads of the world, they're not doing anything for you nutritionally. Yeah, you're getting some of those, whole grains. But frankly, if you look at the fiber content, they're not very high in fiber. They're not very high in protein. It's not doing anything for your body, really. And I don't know if you ever think about your blood sugar, but more and more people are tracking their body's response to different foods using a continuous blood glucose monitor. Even if they don't have diabetes, for some people, that's a practice that helps them understand how food impacts their bodies. And there is a particular influencer who basically his whole thing is he tests his blood sugar. He'll take recommendations from his followers. What do you want me to test tomorrow? And he'll test whatever it is. And one day, and he's a fitness expert, one day he tested Ezekiel bread, and he started by saying before he tested it, he said, I'm going to test Ezekiel bread. I've been eating this bread for years. I love it. Let's see what happens. He eats one slice of bread. It's a serving. 2 hours later, he checks his blood glucose monitor, and it's totally spiked. And he was just, the look on his face after he came back was like, he was like, I am so disappointed. I'm so shocked. I thought this bread was good for me. And, it's not that it's not good for you. It's just that it's not doing anything for you.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to be aware and conscious of your macronutrients, you want to avoid those things so that you can make sure you're eating more choicefully the things that you need to have the best health you can have, and whatever that looks like for you, whether it's weight loss or whether it's getting stronger by eating more protein, whatever that looks like. So, that is the challenge, is helping people know that this bread actually is nutritious and is good for your body and will help you achieve your nutrition goals, whatever those are.
So for those that are not in Cincinnati, that you said you can already go order online at doughjoy.com. But if you are in Cincinnati, where are you available in physical locations here?
Yeah. We're in just a couple of stores right now, and that's a choice. That's a decision that I've made choicefully. But Doughjoy, it's DOHJOY.com online. You can buy it. It's shipped nationally now. But in stores locally, we're at Jungle Gyms, and we are at Pipkins Market in Blue Ash, and that's it right now. And the reason for that is, frankly, I want to, I've been doing this now for a year. There's a lot involved in running a startup, especially when you're still kind of pushing it on your own. And I deliver to my stores twice a week now to keep up with demand. And it's almost more than I can handle just managing through stores. So I do intend to expand into other stores. I've learned, that sales of this bread work best in stores where there are people who are looking for options that are good for them. So it doesn't, work as well in places, that are more like have the more premium products that maybe are more indulgent, more premium breads. It's for people who are really being choiceful. Ultimately, my hope is to get it into larger retail chains, and I'm working towards that right now by getting my packaging and sort of optimizing the packaging so that people can more clearly tell what's really good about the bread right on the package, on the front of the package. And I'm working to update the website and all of those things so that I, can put on the best face, if you will, for, the future larger retailers to, take me really seriously when I'm ready to knock on those doors.
Awesome.
Because my experience has shown in the past that you need to be ready before you go knocking on Kroger's door. You need to be ready before you, go after Whole Foods, because once you start playing that game, it's expensive. You have to do everything just right or you're out. And I learned that lesson once. I'm not going to repeat that mistake again.
No, that sounds
so
stressful. Jeez. I feel like I need a drink even thinking about it.
Tell me about it. Yeah. It was a lot.
So I'm assuming you're in both Jungle Jim's locations. Yes. Okay. I know for me working at the
we're in the natural foods department. So for you folks who know Jungle Jim's, it's not in the main aisle bread. It's going to be in the section of the store with the natural foods.
Okay.
So like if you know people who are looking for gluten-free, it's in that section. It's not in the gluten-free section, obviously, but it's in that kind of space.
Okay, cool. So where else can everybody find you? Social media, website, all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. So we're on Facebook as Doughjoy, DOHJOY. On Instagram, we are Doughjoy Bread. I'd love for folks to follow. We're keeping people, updated on all of the newest things because I do have 2 new products coming.
Ooh.
Might be a bun. I don't know.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, super exciting. So within the next month, I'm going to have those ready to put in Jungle and online. So that's great. And the nutrition on those is insane. I'm just going to tell you, insane. Like, so good. So good. And it tastes so good. So I'm so excited about the buns. And I'm going to introduce a new variant of the bread also. So good things coming with Doughjoy for sure.
Very cool. Well, Julie, this was so awesome having this conversation and learning all about your bread. And I hope that everybody's listening to this will have the opportunity to head to Jungle Jim's or head online and try it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
Yeah, thank you.
AmandaValentineBites.com